Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about the popular topic of goals. But specifically, we're going to talk about when the best time is to set your goals, and more importantly, how you can actually set goals to follow through and accomplish them.
Welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, where we talk about the human side of money. Join us as we dive beyond the numbers, unpacking the psychology of money to equip you with the tools you need to be wise in wealth.
I'm Brendan Frazier, Chief Behavioral Officer at RFG Advisory, and I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine that you're sitting down with your friends playing your favorite board game. And if you don't have a favorite board game, just imagine that you're playing Monopoly. And you're about halfway through the game, and as you look at the board, what you can see is that things aren't going in your favor. The properties are getting taken up, you don't have a lot of money left, it's not gonna be long before you're wiped out, you're not gonna win this game. But then imagine that somebody comes along, they hit a refresh button, a reset button, the board's wiped clean, and you're starting over with a clean slate. All of a sudden, you have hope, you have optimism, things can change, you can start over and do things differently this time. You can learn from your mistakes. That idea of a blank slate and a fresh start shows up in multiple areas of our lives. Not surprisingly, one of those main ones being the new year. When the calendar flips from 2024 to 2025, all of a sudden, we feel like we have a blank slate. Like things have been wiped clean, like we have a fresh start. And anything that we've done in the past, any of our failures from the past, the things that we didn't stick to in the past, those are behind us. Those are a past version of me. And now I have a new year to start fresh and start anew. It's why you've probably heard the phrase, new year, new me. Well, it turns out there's a phenomenon that psychologists have researched and called the fresh start effect. And it's that concept that there are certain times in our life where we feel like we get a fresh start, where we feel like we have a blank slate. So yes, New Year's, when the calendar changes from one year to the next, that's one of them. We also see this happen around milestone birthdays, when you turn 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. It's also why, by the way, you keep telling yourself, after you have a great meal that tastes good but wasn't so good for your waistline, it's why you keep telling yourself that you're gonna start that new diet on Monday. There are temporal landmarks, moments in time that we perceive as opportunities to start fresh and start anew. And that's the best time to set the goals, to start envisioning who is it that I want to be? What's the better, more improved version of myself that I want to become? We have momentum, we have energy, we're invigorated to start thinking about new goals for a new me. But there's one problem. And New Year's resolutions are the best way to describe this or to explain this. And that is just setting a goal doesn't mean you're going to accomplish it. Just having motivation and willpower doesn't mean you're going to be able to follow through. In fact, you can go look out there. There's tons of research that's been done around this. None of them would lead you to believe that it's easy to accomplish your goals. In fact, you can find studies that show anywhere between 60 and 88% of New Year's resolutions have failed by the third week of January. There's even a day, the second Friday in January, called Quitter's Day, because that's when most New Year's resolutions are no longer intact. Willpower helps you set the goals, but in order to accomplish your goals, you need more than motivation, you need more than willpower, you need a formula for how to stay the course, even when you don't have the willpower anymore. So that's what we want to talk through. 5 essential steps to help you set your goals in a way that you can actually follow through and achieve them. Number 1, find your why. Most of us, when we set our goals, we think about what we want to accomplish. We'll take health, for example. Well, I want to lose 20 pounds. That's what I want to do. Or maybe the goal is I want to get in shape. That's what I want to do. But behind every what lies a why. And when you can find your why is your emotional driver. It's your motivation. It's your deeper purpose that helps you get out of bed in the morning when your alarm clock goes off to actually do the workout. So how do you come up with your why? Well, I'll give you an example from one of my friends who decided he wanted to get in shape. And he said what he wanted to do was lose 20 pounds. And as we got into it, I said, why do you want to lose 20 pounds? He said, I want to lose 20 pounds so that I can look better. He said, well, why do you want to look better? He goes, well, maybe I don't want to look better. I think I just want to feel better every day. And so we kept going, why is it that you want to feel better? And he said, because I can't stand when I get home from work at the end of the day, my kids want to play with me and I don't have the energy left to play with them anymore. So what he wanted to do was get in shape and lose 20 pounds. But why he wanted to do it was so he could be a better, more active, more present dad for his kids. And when his alarm clock goes off at 5:30 in the morning and it's time to get up and work out, if he was thinking to himself, I need to lose weight, he's not rolling out of bed. But if he envisions being more active and present with his kids, that's enough motivation and willpower and drive to get him out of bed in the morning. Behind every what lies a why. Find your why. Number 2, inject clarity. One of the biggest problems we see with goal setting is that there's good intentions, but they're vague and they're not clear. So if your goal is to get in shape, or let's say your goal is to eat healthier, how can you make that more vivid and clear? Because the more vivid and clear you make it, the more clarity you can inject, the more likely you are to follow through and achieve it. Again, so let's say your goal is to eat healthier. Instead of leaving it at that, what does that look like more specifically? It might be that you're gonna eat grilled chicken and broccoli 3 nights a week. And now you've taken this vague goal of eating healthier and created a more vivid vision of what it looks like. You've injected clarity, and with clarity comes behavior change, and you're able to stick to it because you've injected that into the picture. Number 3, prioritize progress. Prioritize progress. In other words, don't set a big goal and only measure if you've accomplished the goal. Celebrate the small wins along the way, because small wins create big momentum. In his best-selling book, Atomic Habits, James Clear gives an example of somebody that's going to run a marathon. And he says, if your goal is to run a marathon, you would never set day 1 for your activity to be running 26 miles. Day 1, your goal might be to get your shoes on, get dressed, and walk out the door. And if after you do that for a few days, then you can step up and say, okay, now that I've made that small progress, the next step is to run a mile. So now you're out the door and you've run a mile. And if you keep doing that, small wins create big momentum, and you're on your way to being able to run a marathon eventually. Now, I'm not saying running a marathon is that easy, but we have to prioritize progress, because there's nothing more deflating than setting a big goal that takes a while to accomplish and not seeing progress along the way. So how can you prioritize progress? How can you set yourself up to see progress along the journey? Number 4, identify inertia. In other words, things are going to come up along the way that try to prevent you from accomplishing your goals, and the more that you can envision them beforehand, prepare for them beforehand, the more resilient you'll be in sticking to your goals. So let's look at pilots as an example. Whenever you're on an airplane, you've got a pilot in the cockpit. One of the things that they do up there before they take off is they're not only mapping the course to get to the final destination, one of the things that they're doing is they're mapping all the possible things that could come along to throw off the journey. What if the wind speed increases? What if we get wind in our face instead of behind us? What if we run into a storm? What are the alternate routes we need to take, or what are the things we need to be prepared for and have an alternate plan for? So often when it comes to goals, we have these goals that we set out, but we don't think about the barriers that may stand in the way, the inertia that we may run into. So ask yourself, whatever your goal is, how confident do I feel that I could accomplish this? And what might be something that prevents me from getting it done? If we fast forward a week from now, and I haven't accomplished the goal, what might have stood in the way? If we fast forward a year from now, and I haven't accomplished the goal, what might have stood in the way? So for me, when I looked at it and said, hey, I want to work out 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 o'clock, I sat down for a minute and said, okay, let's say it's next week and I haven't worked out 3 times. What could have stood in the way? What could have prevented that from happening? And I sat there and I went, well, if it's at the end of the day, I would probably say that I was tired and didn't have the energy to do it, or I needed to come home and be with the kids, or I had to take them to practice. What I learned through that is the end of the day is never going to be conducive to accomplishing that goal of working out 3 days a week. Without sitting down beforehand and identifying the barriers or identifying the inertia beforehand, I would have gotten to the end of the week, not worked out 3 times, felt deflated, and gone, I wonder why that didn't work. So before you set out to accomplish your goal, think about the turbulence you might encounter, the inertia you might encounter, and have a plan and prepare for what you're going to do when it comes up. Number 5, what's evident in all of the research around setting goals as a powerful force to accomplishing them is celebrating milestones. This doesn't mean set a goal and only celebrate when you achieve it. It means set a goal and then pick milestones along the way that you want to celebrate. So for example, if your goal is to save $10,000, don't wait until you've saved $10,000. Have a milestone, agree to a milestone, and say, once I've saved $2,000, then I'm able to X, then I'm going to blank. Maybe it's once we've saved $2,000, Then we're gonna go eat at our favorite restaurant and not even worry about how much we're paying for it. We're just gonna enjoy the meal. Celebrating milestones is psychologically proven to be a motivating factor to keep going on the path to accomplishing your goals. Those are the 5 essential steps to setting goals that you can actually accomplish. Find your why, inject clarity, prioritize progress, identify inertia, and celebrate milestones. As always, if you have any questions about this, if you have questions about your financial goals or setting your financial goals, reach out to your advisor and let them know. Until next time, stay wise and well.